how do you make content, specifically YouTube videos, for your MSP? We're going to be covering all of the tools, the tips, the tricks that I have, and honestly, the best way that you can get started making content, putting it online, and starting to get leads. And hey, if you're anything like me, it gives you an excuse to go buy another shiny object. My name is Harrison Barron from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs grow, whether it is sales training, marketing, or even some business operations. Before I get into today's video, I do have to mention, as always, you should swing by the website, growth-generators.com. And for those of you that are watching, you can check it out here, and there will be a link below. But the cool part is we do offer two things that are really important for MSPs. One is our membership called MSP Heroes. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's the first link under our programs. And then the second thing is our resources area, once again, in that top bar. Go in, check that out, including a link to our Discord, which is, from what I have been told, the most active MSP community on the internet. But you could go through here, you could grab some free stuff, whether it's a checklist, my favorite AI writers, MSP sales sheets, and more, including an MSP pricing sheet. So let's talk about the boring stuff first, and then we're going to get into the shiny objects because that's what I'm going to do. All right. The first thing is choosing the right topics. Now, it is vitally important that if you're going to go create content online, you have to know what you're going to actually go and create, because if you don't, you're not going to get very far, right? I know this because I did this, right? I have made 700 plus pieces of content before you're actually watching this video. I've made a tremendous amount of content on the internet, whether that is written content such as blog posts, audio content such as podcasts, and YouTube videos all across. And they're not all in the MSP niche, but I've been making content for a very, very long time. The first thing that you want to ask yourself is, what questions are your customers asking you? Because this is a red flag for you to say, hey, I need to go make this content. Without them telling you, it is a little bit challenging. Now, if you specialize in a niche, think about all the questions that your target customer is typing into Google. It is literally that simple. Now, if you go through and grab the buyer persona worksheet right somewhere in here in my resources tab, you'll actually be able to find the best thing in the world. Because if you go through the buyer persona worksheet, you'll be able to see and go through, fill that thing out, download it, and you could actually copy and paste that into ChatGPT or whatever AI platform you're using and say, hey, this is my dream customer. Can you give me 10, 15, 20, 25 ideas on what kind of content to make? As you begin to make more content, it actually has this weird kind of situation, almost like a bell curve, where in the beginning, it's super hard to make content. And then you start to make content, right? And it becomes easier and easier and easier. And then you weirdly hit this point, and then it becomes harder again. And I'm on that part where it's harder again, which is why I always ask you guys to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But also, if you enjoyed this video, if you want to learn something, if you have questions, leave them down in the comments below, because I use that for motivation and ideas for future videos. It is very hard when you keep making tons and tons and tons of content, but that is a very, very long way down the road. But grabbing that buyer persona, I will leave a link down below to it, but grabbing that buyer persona is the most important thing, because you can then leverage AI and you can think about the questions they are typing into Google, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is. And after you go through that, you want to plan out the content, right? A logical order, at least for the first couple dozen pieces of content. And this could be blogs as well, but in this case, we're referring to video content. You want to make sure that it has maybe not a chronological approach, but a logical approach. After you make about 50 to 100 videos, it doesn't have to be so logically in order, because there's times where you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'll make that video. For example, the video just before this is, what is the difference between an MSP and an MSSP? That is a tremendous topic I should have talked about over a year ago. But hey, hindsight's 2020, and we're always learning to get better. So just make the content, right? And I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks all the way at the end that'll make your life a million times easier. But that's really how you're going to go get the content that you need to make, and then also planning out that content. And think about inside of those questions that you might be answering, what questions, what sub questions, right? You have that heading, right? That super large heading. And then what sub bullets would make sense to back that up? That is going to be tremendously important, because you can't just say, well, what is cybersecurity? You're just going to keep rambling. You have to have some kind of structure, and laying out your videos in advance is really important. Now, if you're a really, really, really active viewer of this channel, you'll actually realize that my eyes float down every once in a while. And that is because I am looking at the notes that I made for this video, right? As much as I think I am a superhuman, I am still human, and I have to remember what I am putting in this video. And it's important to have some kind of notes or bullets. I use a lot of bullets on what I want to cover in a logical order for that video to then be able to say it to you guys. Right? It takes me sometimes hours to make a video because I have to plan everything all the way through, and then I can execute on the actual topic itself. Now, let's get into some shiny objects, and then I'm going to give you guys some tips, tricks, and how to go edit all of this content. So I'm going to be sharing my screen quite a bit through this, but first and foremost, you need a camera. Now, this camera specifically is maybe not the Rolls Royce, but this is a Lamborghini. For what you're doing in the beginning, you don't need that. I have two cameras. I have a camera sitting in front of me, and then I have this camera. They are both called DSLRs. This is so overkill, but if you really want to have the crispiest image, it kind of is required. The camera part is half of the battle. The lens is the other half of the battle. Now, you don't necessarily need this. If you're just starting out, you can use any type of webcam you have. Or another great camera to use, believe it or not, is this sucker right here. You could use your cell phone 100%. Use the back camera, never use the front camera, because the front camera is nowhere near as good. But if you have a webcam, webcams are totally fine as well. Other than a camera, right? Because videos are two parts, right? Half of it's visual, the other half is audio. You need some kind of microphone. Now, I have multiple microphones. I was podcasting for a very long time. I love nerding out on microphones. This is a Rode PodMic USB. If you've been a very long subscriber of the channel, I used to have a Rode PodMic. Then I had the Rode PodMic USB. This microphone was giving me a little bit of a hard time for the weirdest reasons. Sometimes it would change the audio, and there's no physical interface on it to adjust the gain, which is how sensitive the microphone is. So I've ended up with the Shure MV7 Plus, I believe is the name of it. And I will leave all the links down below. But between these two, you're pretty much on the home stretch. And I'm going to just share with you guys some of the tools that I use on Amazon, and I will leave my affiliate links down below because it does help me get paid. And by the way, this camera right here, you can use a standalone camera. You do just need a microphone. Now, you can buy a cheap microphone. I happen to use the DJI microphones. They are fantastic. You can it comes with two microphones, and those microphones are, we'll just go upside down here, but it comes with those two outside microphones and then the receiver, so I can rig that microphone up to somebody else as well. They are also magnetic, which makes life a million times easier depending on what I'm actually doing. And they have this great ability to have little clips on them, and then you could just be off to the races. I always try to wear collared shirts when I have these, so I can either tuck it in somewhere instead of just wearing it like this. And I have seen people get like a coin or something like that for their shirt, and they usually leave this kind of exposed out front. But they are sweet. They are really, really good microphones. They do cost a pretty penny. But let's jump into Amazon here, and I just want to show you guys some of the other tools that I absolutely love, and I have some special mentions all the way at the end. Now, if you're looking for a new webcam, personally, one of my absolute favorites, I have not had the experience of using this, but one of my very, very good friends who I Zoom fairly regularly with has an Insta360. Not only does it follow you, you can force it to stay straight. It is beautifully crispy without the price tag of the DSLR. It's a great little webcam. I highly, highly recommend it. Just seeing how it performs at my buddy's office, it is truly incredible. And this is no real exaggeration as far as how clear it really does look. It is truly one of, in my opinion, the best webcams that you can use for, if you're going to sit at your desk and make one and you don't want to spend the big bucks, this thing is great. If you don't want to do that or you want to step it up, the camera that I am currently using that you're looking at me on is a Sony Alpha A6400. It is a fantastic camera, one of the best in my opinion. This is kind of a bundle kit. If you choose to record directly into your camera, you don't need any of this. I'm going to share with you guys what you actually need. But the camera body itself is pretty darn important. With that, I would highly recommend getting a lens. This is the lens that I currently use, a Sigma 16mm 1.4, and that gives you that beautiful little what's called bokeh, where it kind of blurs out the back just a little bit. It's not quite as crispy as maybe an iPhone, and that's on purpose. It separates me from the background, and if this wall was further away, it would look even better. But that's what a good camera will do. So altogether, it's about, give or take, it's like $1,200 for a very nice setup. But let me tell you, it is fantastic. And I've purchased this lens multiple times because I may have dropped one at one point. But it's really, really good. It sits up on my desk on this little device, a small rig camera desk mount. It sits just behind my monitor. I could actually, maybe I'll turn my camera here. Bear with me for 1 second. All right, we're getting crazy. So now you're on the Logitech Brio. It's not as crispy, but it's a great starting point. Now, if you want to see, and I'm going to share with you guys some of this, you have a key light here, which I'll show you. And then that is the actual camera that you guys see all day, every day. But that is the setup that I have currently. And then obviously I have the microphone. So let's jump back to the other camera. Boom. And we're back in business. But that little device holding the camera up makes life a million times easier. It sits just above my monitor. And honestly, if I lift up my screen here, you could actually begin to see it a little bit in the corners. This thing works great. Every once in a while, I have to go back and just tighten up that little head to make sure it's centered correctly. Other than that, this is the microphone I have, the Rode PodMic USB. I absolutely love this thing. If you want, I will happily put a link down to the Shure SMV7, I believe. Once again, my Logitech Brio, tried and true. And these are the lights that I have. The beautiful part about these lights is I can control them from my computer. So when I'm recording at night, I usually kick on both of them. When I'm recording during the day, I kick on one of them because I have the window open and it provides a nice little bit of light there. And I adjust throughout the day. That's not the easiest way to do it, but I think it looks really, really good on video. Now, if you decide to not get a webcam, you do need what is called a Camlink. This little device, what happens is on your DSLR, it works with almost every DSLR out there, and I will leave a link down to this too. This is an A7C. It's an absolute workhorse. If you're coming to ScaleCon, you'll actually see me using it. But this thing is a workhorse. It has a micro HDMI that plugs directly into this, which plugs directly into your computer. And it basically tells the computer, hey, grab information from the camera. That's how we're going to make this video really, really crispy. But that's really it. It's a fairly simple setup. Now you can use what's called an XLR connection, which is the big circle. I'll show you guys what it looks like here because I'd be a horrible person if I didn't. But that little 3-prong thing right there is an XLR connection. You do need a mixer if you decide to use one of those. Just be aware. So I like the USB setup. It makes life a million times easier. And if it makes my life easier, that means I get to produce more YouTube videos for you guys. But that's really the whole setup. And last but not least, if you do decide to get all of the bells and whistles, you absolutely need a tripod. This thing is a lifesaver. You want to go, I believe this one goes up to 70 inches tall, which is like, if I remember correctly, it's like 6.5 feet. It becomes gigantic. When I am not behind my desk, this is the stand that I'm using, and this is the camera that I'm using. But when I'm at my desk, I use the A6400. You absolutely do not need to go buy all of these cameras. That would be insane. So Now that you've made it this far into the video, I do want to talk a little bit about video editing, because you are going to need to edit the video that you get, right? Whether or not it's good, you're going to have to cut it up. You don't have to go super, super crazy with it, but you have to do something. But you also have to do is hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. There are two main platforms that you can actually get video editing software from. I'm sure you guys probably have heard of Adobe. It's extremely popular. Probably one of the biggest companies out there. And there's another one called DaVinci. And I will show you what those look like so you guys know exactly what to look for. Now, in Adobe, you could go through. It's a fantastic product. The only thing is, it is a monthly subscription. I don't mind monthly subscriptions, but it does get kind of crazy. You can buy a standalone for, I want to say it's like $30, $35 a month. I forget their exact pricing. And recently, Adobe's cool. Recently, I've migrated to DaVinci Resolve. It's amazing. I did pay for it. The free version is great. If you mess up your audio a little bit, you do have to kind of pay for their premium version, which is like infinitely better in my opinion. But otherwise, Adobe is a great product. They're constantly running updates. And if you're already in the Adobe suite, using Adobe Premiere Pro is great. But otherwise, DaVinci Resolve, you buy a license and it lasts for quite a long time. I think almost ever. And it's only $300. It's a steal in my opinion. From there, you want to fire up your YouTube channel, set up your YouTube channel, go through the process. It's pretty straightforward, and then start uploading content. Now, I said I was going to give you guys some bonus tips. So here are the bonus tips. Number one, when you're starting to make videos, don't worry about perfection. It took me 700 videos to get good, or 700 pieces of content to get good. I have had a podcast with 130 episodes. I was super fortunate. I absolutely loved it. It was called the Brutally Honest Podcast. I would trade quite a bit to come back and do it, but the pandemic kind of squashed it. I had a whole studio and everything. It was truly, truly so much fun. After that, your first videos are gonna suck. Don't worry about it. It's the process of continuous improvement and getting better over time. Now, if you've been a longtime subscriber, you may have heard this in the past, but there was I found this out, I believe it was a university professor in Florida who had photography students. She broke her group of students into two groups, A and B. A had to take the perfect picture by the end of the year, and B had to take as many pictures as they could by the end of the year. And what she realized is Group A, because they didn't take that many pictures, only got marginally better throughout the entire semester. Where Group B, because they were graded on quantity of great pictures, they got infinitely better at taking pictures. And that could not be more true for any type of content creation. In the beginning, it is super, super challenging. When I first uploaded my first video, full vulnerability here, I was shaking to the point where I almost took it down. I was terrified. I was like, somebody is going to see this. Trust me, nobody's going to see it. You don't even have to tell people it's up there. But I was terrified when I first released my first videos. It is terrifying. Trust me, it's going to be okay. I am so happy I stuck with it. And for some of you, it might take 10, 20, 30, 40 videos. And for others, it might take a few hundred. It took me legitimately probably 100 to 150 videos before I felt comfortable, and legitimately probably 300-ish videos till I'm super comfortable and I can click on a camera and be in the zone nearly immediately. It is a skill that you have to work on over time. And when I take long gaps or long pauses, it is the worst. I start shaking over my videos. It is brutal. So once you start, I'm not saying you have to keep going for forever, but don't worry about perfection. I would much rather you create great content with great information and then worry about the rest. Just make sure, if anything, you invest in a good microphone. If there's anything I've learned throughout this, investing in a fantastic microphone is worth its weight in gold. The video, that'll change over time and you'll get better and better and better. And there's always new technology coming out, but a good microphone is so worth it. Be clear, be concise, learn how to speak, manage your tone and your speed, and you will succeed. I know that I speak fast. Trust me, I could talk like a New Yorker and never put any time in between sentences, but I know that my New Yorkers and my Upper East, my Northeasterners know exactly what I'm talking about because that's just the way I could talk. But that's not effective. You have to learn. We can slow it down. I promise you, you will get better over time. Listen to your customers, understand the questions that they're asking, go make the best content that you can make. And I promise you didn't start knowing how to configure networks and clean computers and what a CPU was. It took time to learn it all, and you will get there. I promise you. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I hope you consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Love you guys. Bye.